I don't talk about it um, because there's no big conclusion or ending of any great story. There's just nothing. You know, I mean, the stories themselves are great, but there's no end. There's no happily ever after. I let things come out matter of factly. If it's a passing subject or something. Just, if I'm sitting at a bar and somebody says something that reminds me of something from the 80s or the 90s or turn of the century, then I'll tell a story but I don't think there's any book there. I wrote Confessions 95, but that was probably the best year of my life. So yeah, in this weird way, like nothing could top that except for a book called Behind Dark Eyes. It doesn't have anything to do with pool. Or not much. The game is mentioned here and there because, I was still playing. I wasn't out there for pool. Pool was making a comeback in the 80s, the 1980s. And there's a whole lot of regional tournaments popping up. And the state of Florida had their own pro tour with 12 or 15 stops, so all the pros were going to Florida and just making rounds down there. In the 70s and 80s, the road expenses just went through the roof with motels and food and stuff. And, but that's not, I mean, people were still managing to do it, they just had to be smarter about doing it. I think it all came to a head in 1991 with the Great Vegas Dump-Off. If you don't know that story, you should, research it a little bit. That hurt pool because, um, it was evidence that society cannot trust pool players. And that's just to put a blanket statement on it. What really killed, uh, the road guys and the hustler was the internet. The internet came around, and railbirds were always talking. There was always some guy some rumor monger spreading stuff and knocking people's actions and thinking he knows more than what he actually does. But the internet gave him a forum to reach, millions of people. And you couldn't do it anymore. You couldn't even talk about going to a town without every shortstop in that town, being contacted and told you were coming to town. It's just the internet for a pool player was the ultimate knock. And, and there's nothing anybody could do. You can get mad at them, and they ain't gonna do anything. What are you gonna do? So, a lot of people like to blame road expenses, which is a big cause of. But what happened was people, instead of going out on the road and grinding and just making enough to pay for the motel room, they had to go for the bigger money, so they started matching up with each other, and players would still come into town, whatever town you lived in, or whatever city. But they were there to match up, not to hustle the bars and stuff like that. They were there to play for big money. So the whole road scene just changed. In the 80s, I sucked at pool in the 80s. I was trying to get better, but I wasn't. But I was managing to take some of the local shortstops from Philadelphia area and from this area. People from this area, the bar table players play way better than they played in Philadelphia, from my memory. So when I got to Tennessee, it was a whole different kind of thing, where we had a lot of really, really, really good players, especially on the bar tables, and nobody really knew about these guys. So I would take them out on the road because I can take my businesses on the road. But we always went bust in Atlanta if we got through Chattanooga. Chattanooga also had a lot of really, really, really strong bar table players that people still don't know about to this day. And yeah, I never made it past Atlanta, so I started taking them around them and just skipping Atlanta, going down to Florida. Because, they weren't the best players in the world, but if they went bust, they could always come to work for me and get some money in their pockets and then go back out and try again. That's what I did for years and years and years. But all the while, I'm playing too, and I'm getting better and better and better. It's just kind of, I think the internet kills it all. We had a lot of fun. I don't, you just couldn't stop it. You couldn't. There were no more secrets unless you were really, 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 really laying low, and using fake names and changing your appearance. And even that's hard to do now. Some of the tournaments want your real name, and they want to see your driver's license and shit. And it's like, what are you gonna do? I left on January 1st, 1995. I was homeless. I broke and homeless. I scrounged up some money and filled up my gas tank, got on the highway, and just left everything behind, and just didn't know where I was going. I just went and just go see what happens to me. And I figured, I was lined up dead soon. But that's not what happened. Yeah, in 2003, I was back out on the road and came home for a visit, just to talk to some old friends and stuff. And that's when I met my wife. And not long after meeting her, I played my last pool game for 11 years. And yeah, that was it. I stopped playing probably 2005, maybe 2004. And then we got married in 2006. And I just, felt like that was that part of my life. That's over. Let's open up this new chapter. But it's not what happens. Once you can quit pool for 30 years, but once you're a real player, you're always a pool player. You might not be in action, but it gets in your blood, and it's just what you are. It's not even something you do. It's what you are. And you're always thinking about the game and wanting to go out and hit some balls. If I had kept going, if I didn't settle, or if I didn't get married, there's no telling where I'd be now. I think I was playing good when I quit. Playing really good. I don't know. I don't want to say that I'd be the star of the pool world, beating Josh Filler. But I think there's a good chance that could have happened. I gave it up for love and marriage and other stuff, other dreams, which I should have stuck with. I think the best thing about pool or what it's given to me is the characters, the people. We have some real characters in this game, man. Yeah, we have some real characters, and just meeting these guys and hanging out with them and making friends with them and drinking with them and just little glimpses of memories of laughter and I think that's the best thing. At the end of the day, it doesn't seem like much when it's actually happening, but no one can take that from you. It's the people, the characters. Some are real assholes. Some are nice, and some have some serious problems. But they're all characters. They're all unique people. That doesn't seem to happen in a normal world, Because once you're married and doing the family thing and buying a house and trying to close on a mortgage and they all just kind of start being the same person and acting the same way and everything's predictable and the 9-to-5 job and the grandkids on the way. It's just they're all like nobody has anything. It's just like cookie cutter and boring. But Pool, every person you meet is like different, is unique and has stories and questions and there's this thing that bonds us all together that those other people don't really have, man. They're all like the same. That's what I love about Pool. Knoxville had some real monster players back then, starting with Eddie Taylor, who was in his later years when I started coming around. But then there was also Wade Crane, or Billy Johnson, whatever you want to call him. And Mike Massey was from outside of Knoxville. And we had real, like, old-fashioned pool rooms. But we also had a mixture of a lot of bars and a lot of bar tables, too. One of the reasons for that was the University of Tennessee campus is in Knoxville. So all the bar table players would go down to the strip and hustle the college kids. And yeah, it was a big bar scene and a big it had the best of both worlds. So you could actually play in the real pool rooms in the day and go hustle throughout the bars at night. And a lot of players did that. And I was there through a lot of that. So we also had a lot of road players coming down from, well, they would go over to Kentucky from Ohio. They were from Ohio. And they'd gather up some people in Kentucky or grab a friend. And they would come down to Knoxville and either go down to Chattanooga or hang out in Knoxville and just, be included in all the action. And then go over to Nashville and then back up home to Ohio. One of those players came up from Georgia named Eugene Browning, and this was my all-time favorite player for years. Just an incredible, really, really strong bar table player. But the best thing about him was, I don't know if he was like this with everybody, but he treated me with a lot of respect. He was a very nice person. And he was real soft-spoken and, not a hint of arrogant about him. But he's winning a lot of regional tournaments and taking off a lot of champion players, in the back rooms. Eugene's probably still, he would be up there in my top 10 favorite players of all time. Still a nice guy. This guy here, I'll show you some, I don't know if he wants me to do this. Sorry, his middle name is Eugene. I don't know if that's the name he used, so that's the name I know him by. This got another first name. Browning from, Georgia. One of the good guys. Yeah. That's him. All the older guys, they know. All the grinders, they know. Have been around for years and years. And that was something. My point was when you have high, pro pool players in a mid-sized town or small, actually not a town, a city, a small city or a mid-sized city. What happens is the whole level of play with everybody comes up, because now the great players, the guys with real potential, they know what a great pool player can do, and they have this aiming point, this goal, this inspiration to get as good as those guys. So when they come up, then the rest of the players come up to a certain point, and the whole town gets lifted up to where even an average player is a good player. So yeah, that's what happens, and that's why we had so many road players coming through. A lot of action back then. It was a great education for me at the point where I was in my life and the age I was, and I couldn't have asked for more. Really, I couldn't. I was in the right place. If you call the right place, a whole lot of gambling, a whole lot of action, and a whole lot of old time kind of, old fashioned. A lot of players that you see today, they have. There's not a whole lot of players who grind the road full time. They'll go out to a tournament and play in it and try to get action, maybe. But then, when enough is enough, they go back home and look for another tournament to go to. Those who stay at it full time, those who actually live on the road, they're pretty rare, and every one of them has some kind of side hustle going. They have bread and butter income. Businesses. Some are legit, some are not. I played a lot of the bigger guys of that era. A lot of the bigger road guys and regional guys. But I just, it was always for cheap, and if they would play at that, sometimes I could hang with them. But it wouldn't last long. No more than like 40, 45 minutes. So it's too inconsistent and too streaky. And just wasn't there, I did what I could do. I did the best I could do with what I had. And it was what it was, I just couldn't. I was never, there. If I had stayed with it, I think I could have easily gotten there. It takes such a massive dedication. You really have to give up everything in your life and just dedicate it to pool. And part of me just wasn't willing to go all in like that. I always needed some kind of stability, some kind of, business or something. I couldn't just bet my whole life on the pool. And it held me back. I don't know, I have no regrets. Not many. Not anything major or big, I got back in the pool, and it was 2014. I got a call from an old friend who wanted to go out and play, and she just wanted to get out of the house and just go play. So that's what we did. And I played absolutely dreadful, but I'm a pool player, and I've been at it ever since. So what's it, 2022 now? This is 8 years, going on 8 years. Back at it. It's just I'm not sure what my next move is. So I'm here making YouTube videos for y'all, and I like doing it. That's what I do.